Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's show is the next instalment from the fantastic mind of Jim Lawrence. As ever, please do let us know down below in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share, it really does help build the channel and our community further. And of course, don't forget to hashtag TeamFEAR. And so, without further ado, let's get into tonight's story, entitled The Wolves of October, Part 3. Let's get straight into that. Every step is filled with pain. Even with his advanced healing and endurance, he moves slowly. Normally the pack would move at a slower pace of an elder, but this time it was him they moved slow for. He was concerned that one of the younger, more fit males would challenge him for leadership. Part of him would welcome the challenge. He would gladly submit to end this pain. He knew he could not or would not do this. If one of the younger ones took his place, the life of his cub would be forfeit. He also knew that the great beast had not been defeated, and he knew this creature would follow them. He had only one option, and that was to find the man, the only human he knew he could trust. Only the Pathfinder could do that. Only this Pathfinder could do that. The rest of the pack didn't know where they were going. They only knew south. Even if the great beast follows, even if he couldn't defeat the beast, he knew none could defeat the great wolf that walked as a man. He must reach home. He must reach Jim. There are those that believe an animal doesn't understand hate. It's a human trait. The great bear knew hate. He hated the wolves that had taken the life of his offspring. He hated the wolf he had fought. His only thought was to kill him and feast on his body, to take the life of his mate and cub while he watched, unable to save them. His hind leg was stronger now. After the wolf, no, it wasn't a wolf. It walked on two legs. Wolves walk on all four. Had injured it. The wound in his side and the slash on his forepaw all were healing. He was stronger every day, and every day he moved closer to his prey. A smell drifted over the land. It wasn't a wolf, but it did walk on two legs, and he needed to eat. The man was a geologist, checking for oil and gas deposits when the great bear came upon him. The bear moved with speed to defy his great size. The light-skinned, hairless one was softer than a fat seal. He'd barely had time to cry out before he became a meal. While back in Louisiana, John Smith sat in a shady bar on the outskirts of Thibodaux, Louisiana. He put his head down, wondering how he ever got in the situation he found himself in. John Smith was the name he had given the people he worked for. Who was he kidding? He was a prisoner, and he knew it. Oh, he had some freedom. He was able to go to this dive to get a drink on a Saturday night, if he was a good boy, of course. Smith wasn't his real name, but when the Special Forces group fished him out of the river, he didn't want them to know his real name. He had hoped they would just put him in a holding cell, or just release him. He wasn't even read his rights, and even though his injuries had not healed, he was not taken to a hospital, or even an infirmary. He was thrown into a very secure cell, and this was the last night of the full moon. And he knew that when the change came upon him, he would escape and have his revenge on these men. He wanted his revenge. He wanted to escape and kill every last mother's son of them that were experimenting on him. He also wanted revenge on Dehu. He knew he couldn't kill him, but there was other ways. The people he cared for, that little doggy of his, he would take their lives in the most brutal way he could. He thinks back to the day he'd been captured. In his cell he waited for the moon to rise, and darkness fell. An old man in a dark suit sat down outside the cell. He stared hard at the old man, trying to intimidate him, make him afraid. "Hey, old man," he screamed. "I'm going to get out of this cell, and you will be the first one I kill." The old man's expression doesn't change. He just sits and waits. That night, the gods' cursed night, the old man watched, showing no emotion, no fear, and never said a word. He just watched. The pervert. I thought, He remembered this as the last night of his freedom. As the moon shone bright, he began to change. He wasn't a true born like Dehue, but he also wasn't a lesser, like his bitch had called him. He transformed. He towered over the old man, staring death into his eyes, and still the man showed little or no concern. In a gravely voice, he yelled,
"I will rip these bars out. Then I'm going to rend you limb from limb."
He grabbed the bars, intending to rip them off the wall, but instead, he found out what it was like to grab 50,000 volts. When he awoke, he was in a human form. The old man still sitting there with the same emotionless expression. He finally says, "That's very interesting, Mr. Smith. And if you're done now, I will answer the only 3 pertinent questions you have. I am Mr. Turner. I run this facility. I am your supervisor." There was another charge of electricity, and his world goes black. The memory had run its course. He finishes his beer and orders a shot. He now worked for the facility. No, it was more like they owned him. He'd been poked, prodded, and experimented on for several months now. There was a side benefit, though. He had gained even greater control over his ability. He was also sent on odd jobs from time to time, but he referred to this as jumping through hoops. He had become a trained dog, and he knew it. A woman walks in, giving him that look. He brushes her off as he orders another beer. He had no real freedom. He couldn't run. He knew there was a tracking device on him, buried so deep he couldn't dig it out. Oh well, no use crying over spilled blood. He would bide his time, and sooner or later he would find a way to escape, and a way to make his tormentors pay. He noticed the woman again, flirting with what looks like a roughneck. No matter, a woman tonight wouldn't be bad, even a bar bitch, and no one would likely miss her too much. He walks over. "Hey babe, I'm ready now, let's go." The roughneck stands up, barring my way, and scowls and tells me to get lost and there'll be trouble. I laugh. "You better leave now while you can." He throws the first punch, and it hardly registers as I grab him by the throat and start to squeeze. With my abilities, my muscles are denser, my strength greater, and the man may be large but still no match. I watch the light leave his eyes as I think that I wish this was the Q or one of his friends. The man is dead. I drop him to the floor. The woman screams. Hell, the entire bar screams. I hear a siren in the distance, and I turn and hit the woman, hearing the snap of her neck as I strike. I feel alive in a carnage, and my handler rushes in, yelling, "Smith, get in the vehicle now!" I leave the bar, being sure to give the crowd a very feral snarl as I exit. I may belong to the facility, but no one can control me. A short distance north in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Henry Dehue walked around his estate. Yes, his. James had given up his claim to it, and it was his now. James and he had patched up their differences after his uncle had passed, and that incident with Michelle. How that woman had used him fueled the hatred between James and himself, and then tried to sell him to the government to run tests on him. How wrong he had been. He had to have a purpose to cement him from the madness, and he had found it. He would give back to this land what he had always taken for granted. The estate was massive, and he would no longer hide it behind closed gates. He had hired new staff. He would purge the ghosts from the estate. He had hired someone to manage the land and help bring this place into the 21st century. She was an older woman, late 30s, maybe 40, but strikingly beautiful. She was also a Creole descent, and there was also an air of mystery around her. She spoke French, which Onri thought was appropriate. He had a purpose. His mind was strong. He would prove he was not the oaf that Michelle had so often claimed him to be. He would become a pillar of the community, use his wealth to better the area. This wasn't the purpose he had in mind, though. His purpose was much more complex. While masquerading as a good citizen, he would secretly be searching for this covert group that wanted to capture a werewolf. They may know how to deal with the lesser creatures, but they had no clue what it would be like dealing with the nightmare he would become. He would inform James when he knew who and what these people were. Then he would make them pay for ever wanting to get involved with the supernatural. This was new to him. James had always been the paladin, the brave musketeer, the hero. Onri, he had always been in his shadow, always lost, but no more. He would rise above it, he would unmask these people, he would prove to James and his deceased uncle his true worth, and the treacherous Michelle that he was not an oaf, not a paladin, but a hero, not lost, but with a solid purpose. And perhaps he should get a dog. While in the north, Jim sits with Bill and Yuri. "Gentlemen," he begins, "I must head to Yellowstone. That's the home that Tony knows, and from there I can start to backtrack to where I let him leave. I only hope I can cut his trail before anything bad happens. I will say my goodbyes to you now. Lou and I leave first thing in the morning." Both men stand up in a split second. Bill says, "Like hell you will. I've watched over that big lug too. I'm going with you." Yuri also chimes in. "Jim, I know I am new to this country and this team, but I would also like to accompany you on this mission too and save your friend. Look guys, I appreciate y'all wanting to tag along, but I have no clue how Tony will react. Bill has only interacted with Tony from a distance, and when we parted, he made several dominant actions. He may not even want me around. Tony may be completely feral now. If his pack was the one to attack that logging group, that fool." Jim points across the bar to Sam Wade, who was deep in his cup over the bar. "It could be dangerous, and I don't want you or him to get hurt, if it can be avoided. Okay, let's do this. We move this party to Bozeman. I will head north from there to try and cut his trail. When I contact Tony, I'll assess the situation and see if I can call you in." The men agree, set off to make plans to leave in the morning. Over at the bar, Sam Wade, who wasn't as drunk as he had led on to be, wondered how he could profit from this information. At a covert facility in Louisiana. "Mr. Smith, please step in here for a moment. I have something I would like you to see. This is the surveillance footage from one of our test facilities up north. The tape shows the battle that took place in Mount St. Helens and how one man and a very large wolf lead a party through the mountain, defeating the creatures that were there. What do you make of this, Mr. Smith?" "That's the Hugh," Smith said, "and I want to be the one to kill him." After several hours of debriefing, Smith relates who and what James the Hugh is. That afternoon, John Smith and two of his handlers are on a plane headed for Washington State. The mission is clear. Capture James the Hugh. The rest were expendable. Smith was happy about this. He was finally going to get his revenge. He whispers under his breath, "We were never meant to be heroes, the Who." The next day, Smith and two of his handlers board a private plane for Washington State, and of course he had been warned of the consequences if he tried any funny business. He had assured Mr. Turner that not only had his control gotten better, then that his attitude had also. He wanted to be a team player, so to speak. Turner no more believed him than a man on the moon, and warned the handlers to be on guard and stay in contact. Smith thought to himself it was time for his revenge, and he would savour every last bite. He would play ball with the facility, as long as it helped him to finish his work. They reached Cougar, Washington, and of course the facility had a safe house there. The two handlers told Smith that he was going to be locked up tonight. Smith says to them, "Whatever makes you feel safe, guys, but the moon isn't full for 2 more nights. And like I told Turner, I'm a team player now. We're all on the same side." One of his handlers, and the one that had seen him lay waste to that bar, simply said, "Yeah, if you say so." The door slams and he hears the key turn in a lock. Smith lays down, smiling. This was going to be so much fun. And if I play my cards right, not only will I get my freedom, but also the start of a new pack. These fools have miscalculated. The moon would not be full in 2 days. It would be full tomorrow night. He could already feel the pull, his strength growing, and with his newfound control, he would use his abilities to their fullest potential. The next morning, they load up and check out the new abandoned facility site at St. Helens. Smith couldn't glean anything from the site of the battle. One of the handlers had some information on an informant. They may or may not know anything. One thing was for sure, that Hugh and his friends were no longer in the area. Later that evening, the three men went to a bar on the east side of town. One of the handlers talks to the bouncer, who pointed them to a middle-aged man, who appeared to be deep in his cups. The handler talked to him for a few minutes, and he comes over to the table, introducing himself as Sam Wade. Smith starts to feel the moon begin to rise. He is in perfect control. Don't you just love it when a plan comes together? They show Wade some pictures of the men they are looking for. Wade smiles and says, "Yeah, I've seen them. And better than that, I know where they are and where they went. Now, just how much is this information worth to you?" The men go outside to a more secluded place to finish the transaction. All at once, one of the handlers shouts, "The moon is full! Smith, you said it wasn't until tomorrow night." As the change starts to happen, Smith is laughing. "I lied." The transformation hits Smith. He at first doubles over in pain and then straightens up, and his muscles grow, teeth enlarge, his hairs replace bare skin. And with his control so much better, he finishes the change quickly. As the three men stare awestruck, the handlers snap out of it and draw their weapons to subdue the transforming werewolf. Smith easily slaps the weapons from their hands as he attacks the two men, only he does not attack to kill. The man turned wolf subdues the two agents by leveling very vicious bites on the arm and shoulders. He could have easily ripped out their throats, but he had control in his mind and he needed a pack. His two handlers are incapacitated. He turns his attention to the informant. The man is whimpering on the ground next to the vehicle. The man beast slowly approaching him, savouring the terror in the man's eyes. He notices a smell. The monster's let out an almost human laugh, and the man has pissed himself. The werewolf towering over the man, drinking in his fear, tells the man,
"Don't worry, I don't plan to kill you. You will serve me, and you can start by telling me where the Hugh went."
The monster roars.
"Now, human!"
The man stammers, "Bosman. He went to Bosman. They're going to try and find a friend of his." The monster speaks.
"They're all trekking north?"
"No, only the one you called Dehu. The rest are waiting on him there." The monster then savages the man's arm as he falls unconscious. Smith then wills his transformation into reverse, and this must be what it feels like to be a true born. I've never known such power. He loads the three unconscious and wounded men into an SUV and drives back to the motel. The next morning, the men awake to Smith eating a heavy breakfast. The three men are sick at the smell of food and vomit, void in their stomach of any excess material. Smith tells them, "Your choice is simple. You now serve me. I created you, and if I wish, I can end you. You could also flee back to the facility, and Turner, who will either put you through the same experiments that were put on me, or, if you're lucky, I'll kill you tonight, outright. Serve me as members of my pack and know freedom like you have never known it before. You will have your free will until the night of the full moon, and then you are compelled to obey me. Choose wisely. Your lives may depend upon it." That night, the new pack hunt together, Smith teaching them and helping them through their own transformations. The day after the last full moon of the month, the group sends a message to the facility that they are headed to Bosman, Montana, to complete this mission, carefully omitting the fact that they are no longer under the facility's directives. As they take the private jet to Bosman, the paper in Cougar, Washington reads, "Over 30 dead in bizarre series of animal attacks." Smith smiles, "And this is only the beginning. I will have my revenge, Dahu. We were never meant to be heroes." While strange things are still going on in Louisiana. "You wanted to see me, Mr. Turner?" "Yes. Jake, please come in, take a seat. I have a mission for you, Jake, if you feel up to it." "Yes, sir." The young soldier snaps up. "Whatever you need, sir. I have heard you are responding well to treatments, and I think it's time for a field test. I would like you to investigate one Onri Dehu in Baton Rouge. I do not want you to confront this man, just gather some intel, like his habits, hobbies, things like that. Do you feel up to it?" Yes, sir, it will be a pleasure, sir, the young man responds. Take a vial of the serum with you, just as a precaution. Say if this man decides to confront you, you're too valuable to lose, my boy. As the young man leaves the room, the man known as Turner makes a call. Yes, sir, I'm sending in an agent to assess the situation. Yes, sir, I do expect a confrontation. Yes, sir, I do understand the loss, but we need to see how one of our genetically enhanced operatives fare against these abnormalities. Yes, sir, I will keep you posted. Good day, sir. While in Baton Rouge, Onri Dehu is interviewing potential staff to run the estate. He is meeting with a lady at 3 p.m. The lady enters his study. She is tall, about 5'10" and mid-40s, I would say. Definitely a Creole descent. She is very attractive, long black hair put up to make her look more professional. She dresses the part also. She has green eyes that are almost hypnotic and skin like smooth, polished mahogany. There is something about her air that makes her different. Onri lowers his head in a bow in the old manner. I am Onri Dehu. Welcome to my house. I am looking for a manager to see over my property while I attend to my more civic matters. Your resume is impressive. Tell me why I should hire you, though. She nods and says, I am Nicole Letil. May we dispense with the formalities. Along with my management experience, I am also a paranormal practitioner. A what? Onri manages to say. Lord Dehu, I am a witch, a direct descendant of Julia Brown, from the Ponchatoula area. I was sent here by the spirits to assist you. Onri is in total shock, manages to say, you're hired. Can you start tomorrow? Back up north. Smith and his new pack get off the plane in Bosman. The former handler asks how we will track them down. Wade tells them he overheard Johnson telling the others that they were to wait here, while he went north to help someone called Tony, and that they were to wait here for them. Smith says this is a good-sized town. Tracking them down may be hard. And Wade continues, I think the one they call Thompson is in charge when Johnson isn't around. I think he's a doctor or something. Smith shakes his head. I remember him. Wade also says the Russians with him. One of them has a wolf dog. Should it be too difficult to track down? With a facility, not knowing they have gone to Rouge yet, they still enjoy the luxury of their resources and find a hotel. They also check in. No point in letting Turner know he's lost control over them yet. Smith thinks to himself, this all comes to a head soon. Smith and Wade don't go out. They both realise that Thompson might recognise them, so the two handlers turned werewolves are out searching. They only really know how to look for the large wolf dog that accompanies the Russians. Luck is on their side, and they see the group renting an SUV, 4 men and a large dog. A picture sent back to Smith, and they know they have found their quarry. The black SUV that has been provided for them by the facility follows the party out into the farm country south of Bosman. They stop off at a farmhouse that rests on the northernmost corner of Yellowstone. The moon is at least 3 weeks away, and this still shouldn't be much of a problem. The group is visiting an older couple in that farmhouse. This couldn't be simpler, Smith thinks to himself. An out-of-the-way place, complete with hostages and a later meal. A little further to the north, Jim and Lou have passed into Canada. They continue to drive north into British Columbia. He had left Tony in the Spetsnaz Wilderness Park area. He would head there and try to cut his trail. He knew he would be headed to Yellowstone. This wouldn't be easy. Jim only hoped that Dawn might show up and guide them together. He knew he had to hurry. He couldn't let his friend down. The two former handlers were also trained agents, and they kept up the surveillance on Dr. Thompson's group. Smith would bide his time. The next time they visited the farmhouse, he would surprise them, make them get in touch with Dehu, and then he would have his revenge. Would he return to Louisiana or stay in the north? He thinks about how sweet it would be to compromise the facility, to turn Turner into a werewolf under his control. Or even worse, you have to love it when a plan comes together, he thought. Maybe I will become lord of the Dehu estate. Now, wouldn't that be an irony? In a restaurant in Baton Rouge, Onri and Nicole discuss their upcoming business arrangement, when Nicole suddenly says, "We are being watched." That young man in the corner is paying close attention to us. His thoughts are clouded, but he means us ill will. As Onri starts to rise, the definite intent, she puts a gentle hand on his arm, saying, "No, you must not. You seek to improve your image. There are those that know you are to be a brute. To complete your goal, you must be known as a gentleman. You were raised this way, no? You choose to be a brute. Act as you wish to be known." Onri rises from his seat and approaches the man. The man looks up from his seat and rises to meet him. "Good evening, sir," Onri says. "I am Onri Dehu. My escort noticed you was watching, so I am wondering if there is anything I could do to assist you." The younger man doesn't flinch, but leaves with a smirk on his face. Onri returns to the table. "Strange," he says. "No," the woman says, "not strange. He feels superior to you, and he is following you, studying you. He seeks to unmask you, to know your secrets. You may have found what you seek without having to look. It would be wise for you to also study him, as a great man once said, 'Know your enemy, know yourself.'" Later that night, Onri stands on his balcony overlooking the grounds. He catches a flash of light in the distance, and he allows his eyes to see farther than humans can see. As they adjust to the darkness, he sees the same young man watching from a distance. Onri releases a low growl, and it was one thing to follow him into town, but this fool just made the mistake of his life, following him onto his own property and spying on him. Onri smiles and stretches. This will be fun. I have not hunted in ages. Onri disrobes, sits down to the concrete. I will not hunt this man, but I will see that he no longer stalks me. He begins to change. He is assuming the form of a great dire wolf. He thinks how this hunting form would most likely scare this man to death. But his wolf form should just scare him away with no desire to return. The change completes, and he leaves by a rear entrance and circles around the manor. His senses are on fire. He smells the man and moves towards him. The smell, it isn't right. He doesn't smell like a man. Could this be a lesser stalking him? No, that smell isn't right either. What is this being? He moves through the surrounding forest until he reaches the clearing the man is still standing in, still watching the house with a night vision scope. Now the hunter has become the hunted. As the great wolf steps out of the tree line behind the man and releases a low, dangerous growl. The man whirls around on the wolf, but instead of screaming, running or pissing his pants, he just stands there, smiling. The man says, "You're a big fellow, aren't you, doggy?" The man stares deep into Onri's eyes. And to any wolf, that's a pure challenge. And Onri starts to circle ready for a fight. "Now run along, doggy. You're no match for me, and I don't want to hurt a pretty creature such as you." The great dire wolf charges and knocks the man to his knees, but both are somewhat stunned. Onri looks at the man, wondering how he withstood its charge, and the man marveling the strength of this wolf. The man rises to his feet, still smiling. Okay, I see now what's happening. This Dehu person must be doing genetic research on animals, making them stronger and faster. That's got to be why I was sent here, to scope out. Well, my superiors told me not to confront Dehu, but they didn't say a word about killing his mongrel. Again, the two combatants attack each other, and the wolf's teeth against the man's enhanced muscles. Onri hits him hard again, rolling him over and savaging him with his powerful jaws. Blood flows freely from the man now, as the wolf tore a gaping wound into his upper arm. The man yells, "You stupid cur!" and he produces a syringe device and injects the substance into his leg. The change happens quickly, as the dire wolf, which is Onri, watches the man change. The change isn't like a man becoming a wolf. He grows taller and stronger. He has larger, more pronounced canine teeth, and even claws now on his hand, but no muscle. More hair also, but not wolf-like. He charges the wolf, and the fight is rejoined. The man's strength is already considerable, but now it seems 10 times stronger. He is also more agile and faster. He kicks Onri in the side. Onri can physically feel a rib break at the force. The enhanced human was now more than his match, and every blow sent him pain through his body. When Onri does get a chance to bite, his teeth are barely able to break the skin. Again, he is knocked back several feet. He lays there, not wanting to get up. He hears a voice in his head. "Lord Dehu, you cannot defeat this thing in your current form. You must assume your true form, or you may die. I will help you with the transformation." Onri hears chanting in his mind as the man wolf stalks in to finish the job. Again, that smile is on his face. That superior look. Onri studies his mind and feels the transformation start, but in his mind he knows the transformation may take longer than he has left to live. The chanting in his mind seems to calm him as the transformation flows almost without pain. The man wolf is then awestruck by what he sees. The wolf standing on his hind legs. Though legs becoming heavier and shaped to hold a more massive amount of weight, the shoulders and the chest enlarge to carry a great strength in a new developing muscles. The forelegs are now arms with hands ending in massive dagger-like claws. The head is that of a giant dire wolf, but the neck shifts to make it face forward. The dire wolf had no expression, but now he could see the expression, the very intent in its face, and it didn't look happy. Standing close to 9 feet, the man only knew fear now. He didn't know for all of his enhancements he was outmatched. He saw his death in the golden eyes of this creature. Onri in his hunting form is a terrifying sight. Only his cousin James was larger, but the man wolf didn't know true terror until he heard Onri speak.
"Now, I'm going to rip that stupid smile off of your face and send it back to your masters."
The fight is rejoined, but the outcome is never in question. The great werewolf rips the man wolf apart, and then at the finish, he rips the head off and throws it deep into the forest. His blood is hot, and he wants to hunt, he wants to kill. He then turns his sights to the city. He would teach them all what true terror was. He would. The voice is still in his head. "Calm yourself, Great One. You have defended your home. You need to be a man now, not a wolf." Again, the change comes easy, far easier than he had ever remembered. He walks back to the manor, not even noticing the fact that he's completely naked. The tall Creole woman he hired meets him on the lawn with his robe. He dons the robe, then looking at the beautiful woman takes her into his arms, kissing her passionately. Onri awakes the next morning, sore from the encounter, but overall feeling good. He had prevailed in a life or death fight and felt more alive than he had done so in many years. He knows he must reach James. That creature had to be part of the men that tried to kidnap him last year. He and James would put an end to their evil. He makes the call, but there is no answer. Sacre bleu. He must be far in the north. Come home quickly, my cousin. Bill, Yuri, Steve and Peter have been under constant surveillance. Since Smith had found them, but with no sign of Jim, Smith thinks he must have went north to meet with someone. He could also question these 4, but in doing so, he would tip his hand and alert Dehu. He could turn these 4 and make them part of his pack, even send them to kill Dehu. But he wasn't a pureblood. He had to wait on the full moon. The problem was, he wasn't a patient man. He decided to confront them, make it so that they had to call Dehu. The next night, as they were headed to their motel, Smith's group caught up with them. "Good evening. It's Dr. Thompson, isn't it?" Bill turned, saying, "Yeah, who are you?" but recognizes the man imminently. "You survived?" "Yes, Thompson. I survived, so let's cut the crap. You know who I am and what I am. And just so you know, I'm not alone." The other 3 wolfmen step out. "I want to know where the Hugh is. Tell me, and I might let you live." Bill steps up. "I remember you. You were one of Michelle's lapdogs. Get out of here. You and your friends hold no fear to us. The moon is still 2 weeks away. You best be thankful Jim isn't here. He would tear you a new ass if he were." Bill then looks to Wade. "So, you were working with this cur all along?" The man gives a downtrodden look, saying, "Not really." Smith steps up menacingly and starts to approach. I don't need a full moon to deal with you. But almost as soon as he says it, a very large wolf steps out from behind Peter. Raz doesn't even waste time with a growl. He plants himself in front of Bill, daring Smith to advance. What is it with you people and wolf dogs? Raz charges into Smith, knocking him off of his feet. The two former handlers rush in to attack, and while the coward Wade stays back, Peter is also on the move with his Spetsnaz, training his kicks on one of the men, solid into the face, putting him down. Steve enters the fight, but with somewhat different results. The former handler is still a highly trained combat professional and incapacitates Steve almost effortlessly. But before the man can take stock of what's left, a roundhouse kick puts him on his ass. Smith has been dragged down with Raz firmly attached to his arm. He raises up and throws the dog to the pavement, knocking the wind out of him. As Smith turns, Peter has the muzzle of his GSH-18 handgun next to his ear. Peter calmly tells him, "Stand down, comrade. These rounds will pierce body armor, and I don't think your skull is that thick." Raz is up and back with the group, and Bill tells them, "You better leave before my friends here," motioning to Peter and Raz, "decide they ain't finished with you." "This isn't over, Thompson," Smith tells him. "Though next time we show up, the moon will be full, and that old couple you visited might be as prepared for us as you were." The four men then fade back into the darkness to lick their wounds and get ready to try again. Bill looks very concerned. "Must try to reach Jim, and I must warn the Martins of the danger they could be in." Yuri, looking perplexed. "Dr. Thompson, why were those men talking about the full moon?" Bill is also concerned and says, "'Cause they are werewolves, Yuri, and I'm afraid we ain't seen the last of them." Miles to the north, in British Columbia, Jim has finally cut Tony's trail and has found the small clan of Dogmen. He sees Tony on a rock, still looking beat up. Jim says, "Alright, Lou, I guess there's no time like the present to try this." Jim leaves his rifle and pack under a clump of brush and strides confidently into the den area. The dogmen scatter to the trees and bushes and they growl, but do not move to engage, all except their leader, who rises to his feet and moves towards the man, trying to show no weakness. The man outstretches his arms to show he has no weapon, and the great wolf by his side, the pathfinder of the pack, approaches. The man lowers his head, presenting his neck, as does the alpha of the pack. Mutual respect. Wow, absolutely awesome stuff there, Jim, as ever. A wonderful writer. Such a thrilling story. Chest pounding this one as well, really got me going there. As ever, guys and girls, you know the drill. Please do let us know down below in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And of course, don't forget to hashtag TeamFEAR. Still got a croaky, wobbly voice and all stuffed up, guys. So I hope you enjoy this rendition of Jim's wonderful stories. And that's it from me tonight. As ever though, remember, above all, be safe, not sorry.